Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Three Buck Theater, and today is the 14th of November, 2018. We're halfway through the month, it feels like. It's been going through at breakneck speeds. Harry Potter's Fantastic Beasts spin-off movie pops open tomorrow night. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty big. They're estimating a $250 million worldwide opening for Fantastic Beasts 2. The critics are still kind of on it, but the fans who have seen it and given their reactions, not their reviews, have been very, very, very high. Additionally, it's kind of a slow news day today. There isn't a lot going on, so it gives me time to catch up on some of the little tidbits that I might have missed, as well as spend a bit more time pimping out the voicemail line, which I just debuted yesterday. So if you missed that, you can always give us a call at 818-350-3281. That is 818-350-3281. Go ahead and leave a voicemail with your question, and then I can play them here on the air. And at the end of the podcast today, we will definitely be talking about the couple questions I got in that I want to get to. And so let's just dive into it here. Let's just jump in. First things first, obviously, Ghostbusters being the thumbnail for today. You might be asking yourself, what in the hell is going on in the world of Ghostbusters? And that, well, essentially has everything to do with Dan Aykroyd, who has been igniting the talks or reigniting the talks for Ghostbusters 3. Now, you may think to yourself, but wait, don't we already have a Ghostbusters 3? Isn't Ghostbusters 3 the video game that came out in 2009? Well, I hate to break it to you. I really do. That was actually removed from being canon. That's no longer considered canon. They dropped it. I think because they dropped it due to the failure of Ghostbusters, the reboot. Right. Ivan Reitman at Comic-Con 2017 had admitted it on stage that it's no longer considered canon at a Ghostbusters IDW panel. I was there for that. I do have the footage of that somewhere. And yeah, it's a big deal that they dropped that as being canon, but it wasn't publicly known. It wasn't a big statement. He kind of said it offhand and nobody pushed back. Probably because they're thinking, hey, listen, we can wash the taste of 2016's Ghostbusters reboot completely out of our mouth by going back into the fray. But how would it work? Well, according to this article here, it says you're going way back. Dan Aykroyd's Ghost Corps, which is also co-run by Ivan Reitman, and those are the brainchild or the brain trust of Ghostbusters right now through Sony. They've wanted to develop a story here, which basically has Dana and Venkman's love child, Oscar, as a post-grad student who is forced to take over the business after Venkman dies in the first scene. Bill Murray's character was said to be a ghost in the third film, which allegedly had been greenlit up until Harold Ramis got sick and eventually passed away. Now that still, to this day, is just one of the most tragic things, that Harold Ramis is no longer with us to provide comedy and humor and everything else. And I would love to have seen this movie, even though I'm not a huge fan of the core idea with that little detail. I still would have watched it because it's Ghostbusters. And I mean, hell, I'm still a very ardent defender of Ghostbusters too. In fact, one of my favorite comments to make when in regards to Ghostbusters 2016 is that it by default made Ghostbusters 2 a better movie. And I think a lot of people finally realize that it's not as bad. But anyway, according to Ghostbusters News, who reports that Aykroyd was a special guest on an episode of The Big Interview with Dan Rather, revealed that they are in fact working on the screenplay for Ghostbusters 3 and allegedly could have the support of Bill Murray, saying here there is a possibility of a reunion with the three remaining Ghostbusters. It's being written right now. And he says, I think Billy will come. The story's so good, even if he plays a ghost. Now, Dan Aykroyd, when it comes to Ghostbusters, it's his baby, right? So he is going to be the consummate hype man. He's always going to hype it up. But it makes me really wonder where things are. Now, we know Sony's been working on a Ghostbusters animated film. We've known that since 2016. When I was at Comic-Con for the Ghostbusters panel in 2017, Reitman had talked about a live action movie. Now, one of the things at this panel that I found to be interesting, and this is where I do think things are going. So if you do hate Ghostbusters 2016, you're not going to like my theory on this one. But here's my theory. My theory simply is that what we're going to see is Ghostbusters 1984, that world, Ghostbusters 2016 crossing over. The Ghostbusters Answer the Call comic line, comic run through IDW, has that exact storyline. And apparently it's been popular, at least through IDW. Now, those comics don't sell a great deal, but I do think that it was a way to test the waters, to bridge the gap. Now, the idea would basically be that it's not all 2016 Ghostbusters, right? So there would be no Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, or I think Leslie Jones in this one. Like what I heard was it mostly would be Kate McKinnon's Holtzman, or at least that's my speculation. What it would just be Holtzman and maybe Patty, right? The two underpaid, the two lower, lesser paid actresses in the movie coming off of SNL that would go through a portal that would take them into the alternate New York, our New York, so to speak, for the original Ghostbusters. And they would team up with the three, and they would learn the ropes of being actual Ghostbusters, and then the two would then cross over, and then that would kind of rebuild and reboot the franchise. And it could be possible that, you've got Oscars there and everything else. That's kind of what I'm thinking they're going to do, because it just seems to make the most sense, right? We're in an age now, we're crossing over into different properties, kind of crossing over in very odd Portal-esque sort of ways. Think like Supergirl and the CW universe and whatnot. It's possible. It's a reality. And it's one that once they establish it, the audience will suspend enough disbelief in order to do it. And I think that's entirely fine. I think that's entirely okay. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I don't know if I'd say it'd be a lot of fun. I don't want to say that. It all depends on the director. Paul Feig has said that he wants to come back to do Ghostbusters 2. Fans, I think, would absolutely revolt about that. They don't want him anywhere near it. I think Ivan Reitman is going to come back in to do one more. I think he wants to kind of correct the record, very similar to how we're hearing J.J. Abrams is going to course correct, Star Wars Episode 9. And I think that's kind of where we are in regards to these franchises and the changes that the studio heads want to make, right? These changes that fans don't like because they don't want their expectations subverted in jarring ways, right? They're okay with certain changes if they happen and they feel legit. In the case of Ghostbusters rebooting it, nobody wanted it. Nobody asked for it. The audience has clearly responded in a way that's like, no, we don't like your movie. And then here it is 2+ years later, and Melissa McCarthy still is accusing men of not leaving their mother's basements and hating women. And Paul Feig is still accusing men of all these problems. Never mind the fact that even women didn't like Ghostbusters. So there's that. It needs to have, if you want to make it work, you got to cross the streams. In this case, cross the universes. Even though I would much rather just have 2016 forgotten, I don't think we're ever fully going to get away from it. And that's just the unfortunate reality that we have to live in. Speaking of odd realities that we're living in, apparently Disney is desperate, and I mean absolutely, positively, fundamentally desperate to get their hands on an Oscar for anything involving Marvel, right? Anything involving the movies that they've released this year. They basically submitted Black Panther for 16 Oscars, including Best Picture, which it won't win, although it might win considering how the Academy is going these days. This, of course, is coming after the Academy had floated the idea, right, of doing the most popular film category that everyone was like, just give it to Black Panther because you're already going to. Just do it. Just give it. Just at this point, when it comes to Black Panther involving the Oscars, it's like, just give it the damn Best Picture Oscar. You want to. Disney wants it. Not only fans, the Academy members want it. They just give it. It just make this year a wash, because no one's going to take that award seriously, by the way. No one will. So Disney decides that they want to sit there and they want to float Infinity War for 11 Academy Award recognitions. And ultimately, Infinity War is a much better movie. Hands down. The acting, the writing, the production value. It's not a rip-off of Lion King. It is very much a better movie in all fronts. I'm not saying that Black Panther is bad. It's a good film, but compared to the two, I was on a flight to Milwaukee recently and I watched Infinity War on another dude's screen without any sound. And I just watched it. I could have watched it myself. I didn't. I watched someone else watch it, and it was an enjoyable experience. It was a relaxing experience. Go figure, I was really tired. But anyway, here's what they're saying. Marvel Studios and Disney have made their Oscar ambitions very clear. They're pushing the acclaimed Black Panther for several awards, including Best Picture. Now it appears the rest of Avengers will be getting in on the awards season. Through their For Your Consideration website, Disney and Marvel have announced plans to push Avengers Infinity War for the Academy Awards. And they're pushing it into 11 categories for Best Director for Joe and Anthony Russo, which I do feel that they would be very qualified for, way more than Ryan Coogler. Best Adapted Screenplay, again, giving all of those characters equal and ample amounts of screen time in a way that worked, hell yeah. Best film editing, okay, sure, why not? Best cinematography, yeah, it has some good cinematography. It really did. I don't know if I say best, but it has some good stuff. Best production design, yes. Although, well, to be fair, it was like they really did well designing those CG sets. Best costume design, I would agree. Best makeup and hairstyling, 100%. Best visual effects, you'd be hard pressed to find a better film with that type of visual effect this year. Right now, if you're talking like just kind of like immersion factor, First Man and the IMAX experience for that, from what I'm told, would probably be like the front runner. But as far as visual effects go, yeah, way better than Black Panther. Best sound mixing, sure, why not? I mean, I don't know. I mean, what is it? Best sound mixing. Transformers lost out to I think it was like the Bourne Identity in 2007. So I never really give those awards much credence. Best sound editing and best original score. Not best picture. You have best director, right? You have best adapted screenplay. No best picture. I mean, obviously they don't want to take away votes from Black Panther. They feel Black Panther has a better shot at winning, which is true. It does in that regard, given the way the Academy has been going. But at the same time, I'm pretty certain at this point, many fans are going to be like, why not best picture? It's fundamentally a better movie. There's no real debate for that. It is. Avengers Infinity War is better in almost every conceivable way than Black Panther. That's not taking away from how good Black Panther is, as I previously said. It's just the truth. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with this, whether or not Disney is actually going to get any of these nominations. I'm pretty sure for the production side of things, absolutely. It's going to be nominated, probably more so than Black Panther, but they want Black Panther to take home the top honor, right? And I think they're barking up. I think they're backing the wrong horse. I do. I think they're backing the wrong horse. I think that they're pushing Black Panther because of the name, because of the property, and not because of the quality and merit of the film, which goes to show you that the Academy is something that at this point, nearly 100 years in, probably just needs to be retired. It really does, because it's no longer about what's good. It's about what gets spent the most money on and all the films they could cram out in the last few months of the year. And I just lost interest. These films don't really interest me much anymore when they really, really used to. And that's unfortunate. Speaking of unfortunate, Alien Covenant was bad, right? I think we all can agree. Alien Covenant was not a good movie. And as a result of Alien Covenant coming out, it killed Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5. In fact, Ridley Scott killed Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5. We learned that last year. Basically, in the hype train for Chappie, it came out that Neil Blomkamp had an idea for Alien 5. Sigourney Weaver, Michael Biehn were kind of on board for it, especially Sigourney Weaver. He had deals and he had talks with Fox about it. Everyone was excited. In fact, it took over all the marketing, all the chatter surrounding Chappie, which is probably for the best because it was a mediocre movie. And as a result, you know, like people wanted Alien 5. They wanted a continuation of Ripley's story to kind of like retcon Alien 4. Or I think it was going to retcon Alien 3 and move away from there. And I think people were going to be okay with that. But no, we got Alien Covenant. And then, of course, it was going to be Alien Awakening was going to be the movie that connected Alien Covenant and Prometheus to 1979's Ridley Scott movie. But we learned some details now of what that film is going to be if it ever gets made. It says here, with the disappointing box office of Alien Covenant, as well as the sale of 20th Century Fox to Disney, it seems the prospect of a third Alien prequel from director Ridley Scott is dim. Knowing that Empire has unearthed the plot synopsis for the script of Alien Awakening by John Logan, who wrote Spectre and Alien Covenant, two kind of lackluster films in regards to scripts. Look, Spectre was a fun movie, but it wasn't Skyfall. You know what I mean? Like the script was kind of weak. And it was originally written with the intention of being Scott's next picture after All the Money in the World. Now, this is what the plot synopsis is. It says here, Logan's script would have seen the return of the Prometheus's engineers, and with that species survivors coming after the genocidal David. Settings-wise, Scott said it was obvious we're actually going to go to the planet, which by we assume he means LV-426. And that, of course, makes sense given where the ship was going at the end of Covenant, where the Covenant was going. You know they're going to LV-426. You know this is what's going to happen. So that makes sense. Like they were tying it in to kind of show what happened before, Ripley got there and everything else. But he wanted to he wanted to bridge the gap between the original alien and the crew of the Nostromo discovering the derelict ship in the aftermath. So I'm pretty sure that what would happen is like both David and Catherine Waterston's character from Alien Covenant probably would battle to the death with them killing each other and kind of killing everybody else. And this to end the experiments that David is doing with the engineers' technology. And of course, leading, them having a space jockey ship there or whatever the hell it would have been. Who knows how they would have tied it in. But that's probably what would have happened. And then as a result of that, it would have tied into the original film. And honestly, I'm okay if it never happens. Now, Scott did previously say to Entertainment Weekly that we are going to make another one. I think what we have to do is gradually drift away from the alien stuff. People say you need more alien, you need more face pulling, you need more chest bursting. So I put a lot of that in Covenant and it fitted nicely. But I think if you go again, you need to start finding another solution that's more interesting. I think AI is becoming much more dangerous and therefore more interesting, which is the entire point behind David, which we get. Which we totally understand that David is the AI. David is the problem. David is Ridley Scott's kind of commentary on what he sees as a big problem with where we are in technology and artificial intelligence in current day. I get that. I understand that wholeheartedly. But it was handled in a very bad way. It really was. It wasn't handled in the best way that it could. And it was kind of a boring movie. Because the plot really wasn't there. Yeah, there was violence. There was a sex scene that went horribly wrong. People got killed in pretty gruesome ways, which was actually a lot of fun. But it was missing a decent story. And again, that was the biggest problem with Prometheus too. It had an awesome setting, and then the story just fell flat, right? And so that's what we're learning What we're learning here is that the story is not very good. So what he would need to do is get a writer who actually could craft a solid narrative bridge between Awakening and the original Alien. And I think it could be done. It would have to be a lot of fan service though, I think, right? There'd have to be a fair amount of fan service, I think, for it to work in a way that people like. Because here's what it breaks down to, right? And this is where I think Ridley Scott's coming from, is what people want is more aliens. They don't want Alien. They want aliens, right? That's why they were excited for Alien 5, was that it was a continuation of Aliens, not Alien 3 or Alien Resurrection. Those would not exist. That's why people liked it. They wanted more of the James Cameron kind of space marine versus monster, pulpy sci-fi action stuff. That's what they wanted. Ridley Scott was all like, no, I want to tell these types of stories. But then people were like, well, you still need to add this stuff in. This is what fans expect. And Ridley Scott just doesn't look at it from that perspective. It would be like James Cameron trying to direct Gladiator, right? Like the subtlety and the nuance of what Ridley Scott could tell with that story would be something that Cameron couldn't touch upon. But what he could do is do Gladiator 2 and take it to whole new freaking levels that would make everyone freak out and probably kind of forget that Gladiator 1 exists in some respects. But I want to take a look here real quick at the numbers, right? Now the numbers, just to give you an idea for whether or not we're actually going to see this, because this isn't if one is happening or if it's not happening. The domestic box office or the worldwide box office take home for Alien Covenant was 238 million, while the estimated home video sales was 21 million. So you put those together and you're looking at around, close to $260 million worldwide take home for the movie, for theaters and for home video. The budget of Alien Covenant was around 97 million, not including print and advertising. So was the movie profitable for Fox? Hard to say. They haven't come out and said that it's profitable. Nobody came out and defended it as being profitable. So if they were going to do it, this would have to come under, Disney and Fox now would have to kind of gauge it a bit more. They'd have to gauge how they want to handle it. And it's entirely possible that Ridley Scott, who's had a good deal with Fox for a while, maybe won't actually be working with them for much longer because they're going to put the kibosh down. They're going to run 20th Century Fox like a corporation. We've seen what it's done to Lucasfilm. I talked about that on the main channel yesterday, where you had, the glass door comments about Lucasfilm over the years and how it's gotten progressively worse under Disney. That's what's going to happen to Fox. So something like Alien Covenant probably won't see a sequel unless it's something that is going to be wholly different and probably not directed by Ridley Scott. I would say at this point, the likelihood of him actually going back into the franchise is probably pretty low. Anyway, let's get through this last story here, because this is interesting. I forgot about sorry, I moved on. Tom Cruise apparently is too short and is to be replaced as Jack Reacher. I totally overlooked the story. So if you've seen Jack Reacher and Jack Reacher 2, was it Never Go Back or whatever? Like, you might like Tom Cruise in the role. I loved the first Jack Reacher. I thought it was fantastic. I thought he was fantastic in the role. Him and Christopher McQuarrie worked well together. And I think that's why he's being kind of recast, because they are changing directions, but also, well, the last movie didn't gross as much as they wanted it to. It needed help from China to get the budget. And the Mission Impossible films have had new life breathed into them because of the collaboration between Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie that just keep upping the stakes. And so fans would rather see more of that versus more of this. Now, it says here that Lee Child, who writes the books, says that Reacher is described as 6 feet 5 inches tall with the hands the size of dinner plates. Tom Cruise is 5'7". I'm actually taller than Tom Cruise. And it's really funny too, because recently somebody decided on Twitter to find all the times in the new Jack Reacher book that Lee Child described Jack Reacher's hands. And every time they just kept getting bigger, right? And it's kind of this running gag with the books, I think. Now, Child here says that Cruise, for all of his talent, didn't have the physicality. And that readers actually complained about Cruise's suitability to play the imposing former major in the U.S. military police since he was cast back in 2011. But Child did say, I really enjoyed working with Cruise. He's a really, really nice guy. We had a lot of fun. But ultimately, the readers are right. The size of Reacher is really, really important. It's a big component of who he is. And that is interesting. It's interesting that you have a character, an actor, cast in a role. Fans have deemed it to be wrong. They vocalized this for a long period of time, even through 2 films. And when the guy who owns the rights to it signs away the rights for a streaming show versus making another movie, I'm pretty sure that's why the Never Go Back failed, or whatever it was called, failed to gross a lot of cash when it came out. And so the rights probably returned to him when I think Paramount decided not to go and make a third film, opting rather to go and do another 18 Mission Impossibles as a result of this. It would make sense ultimately that we would see, this kind of change happen. And now that the movie studio is not in the way and he signed it to a streaming service, he can come out and say, yeah, we made a mistake with that one. We totally screwed up. We should not have put Tom Cruise in the role. Here's the thing. Without Tom Cruise, the movie probably wouldn't get made. Without Tom Cruise, the streaming show probably would not get made. It's like Jack Ryan over at Amazon did pretty well, and one of the reasons for that is the Chris Pine movie flopped. Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan in 2 films was great. Alec Baldwin as Jack Ryan, Hunt for Red October, was great. Ben Affleck as Jack Ryan in The Sum of All Fears was great. Chris Pine just couldn't nail it, and I think a lot of that had to do with Kenneth Branagh and, oddly enough, Keira Knightley. But John Krasinski has nailed it. He's been able to play the part very well, but he is more in line with Ben Affleck and Harrison Ford versus Chris Pine, who comes across as an action hero right off the bat. Just he has that look about him. Whether or not you believe he is up to you. And Cruise does the exact same thing. You wouldn't look at Cruise as anything other than a mega movie star. So having him be an imposing military, former MP that does all this stuff, it worked because while he may not have the hands the size of dinner plates, he was able to impose that larger than life persona that I think made up for it. Never mind the solid writing and the solid directing and the solid action of those films, at least the first movie. So I don't know, but if this would have been anyone else, if this would have been a woman, if this would have been a female character, a character of color, anything like that, people would not have the same reaction that they're having to this. Lee Child, you would see the exact opposite, right? Whereas Tom Cruise is being almost like recast because he's too short. You would never see that apply to anybody else. And that is a problem with the equality that we find in Hollywood. So Finally, Netflix, new prices. This is interesting to me because Netflix has been going through a bit of changes. And I think Netflix as a whole might be plateauing here pretty damn soon. I do. As sad as that is to say, I think it might be plateauing here pretty damn soon. So ultimately, the way that I view it is that, what they're going to do here is they're going to experiment with cheaper prices to expand their global reach. Right now in America, they've got 50 million accounts, right? 50 million monthly subscribers paying more than $10 a month. They also have another 50 million spread across the world, 100 million active user accounts every single month. They make billions of dollars a year, but they're having trouble reaching out to a few markets. Now, in a recent interview, CEO Reed Hastings said that a lowered price Netflix tier would be made available in select markets. Details are still scarce, but the report says that Netflix won't be lowering the price of the streaming service's lowest existing tier, but instead creating a brand new tier that will have different features and cost less. Now, what does that mean? Obviously 4K, HDR, UHD content, the real high quality stuff won't be included in that. It's probably not going to have 1080p streams. You're not even going to have, you're probably going to have 720 max in order to just capitalize on the keeping the cost low. Now, in an interview with Bloomberg, Netflix said they're testing lower price versions of the service in some markets, although they didn't reveal where or when. The assumption is that the implemented in a country like India, where a place like Netflix has so far failed to make significant inroads with a high population of potential subscribers. Netflix set its sights on Asia a few years ago, but despite setting up a headquarters in Singapore and the fact that they're currently developing more than 100 film and TV projects across India, Korea, Japan, Thailand, and Taiwan, Bloomberg says that the streaming service has yet to surpass more than 2 million subscribers in any of those countries. And now Hastings did say that there are as many as 100 million people in India alone that Netflix is trying to turn into customers. So imagine for a second what they've already got. 100 million subs worldwide outside of those markets. And they view it as saying they could double that for India. They could double that for India, you know? Like India is a huge market. It's that whole YouTube thing with T-Series versus PewDiePie. T-Series is an Indian-based channel that posts Indian-based Bollywood culture videos. So it's blowing up because it's based in India, which has 1 billion people. You know, so it can do well. So they're looking at wanting to tap into 10% of the market. So they're going to create a lower tiered system in order to be able to get their hands on more people. It makes sense, but I really wonder what's that going to mean for the type of content and what that's going to mean for the type of quality. Because we here in the States won't ever see anything like that. They're never going to lower the price. They're never going to lower anything. We're just going to keep having to pay more money to compensate for developing projects in those countries, which I'm not ultimately against because I feel that Netflix is definitely worth the cost of admission and I get a lot of love and enjoyment out of it. But it's always interesting to look at how they do business and how it's going to, how we have to kind of pay for the rest of the world just so they can make more money. I don't know. I mean, Bollywood's a big market. If you break into Bollywood and they bring Netflix content to Bollywood, it's going to do really well. And that's ultimately what they want. It's one of the things I've talked about before when it comes to theatrical stuff is that ultimately what we see a fair amount of, looking at the rest of the world where there's emerging markets like China, the emerging middle-class market there, there's a lot of money to be made for entertainment. And so while the domestic audiences, they kind of know what we're going to do, they can kind of already gauge how things are going to be and know what money they're going to make. They want to tap into those markets to make even more money. And so we ultimately end up paying a bit of the cost of that, not only in terms of quality of content, but just in price. And it does get to be a little bit annoying, but at the same time, with the access that Netflix gives and the availability and accessibility that they have it just kind of makes up for it, to be honest with you. I don't see people in the US dropping their subscription rates over this at all. Most people aren't even going to care, but it's just something to consider and to pay attention to as Netflix continues to move forward with everything that they're doing. So let's take a look here at the voicemail session of this. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while. This is something I've wanted to do for a fair amount of time now, is because I like interacting with you guys. When I do the live shows, you guys are great to talk to, but I want to take some questions. So here's a couple that I got, and we're gonna go through them. This first one here came in yesterday as I was recording the show, so I couldn't get to it.
Hi, Matt. I have a question regarding the new film Alita Battle Angel, which comes out this February. Now, we know that anime hasn't had a great track record popularity-wise, and as this new trailer has dropped today, I was wondering your general thoughts on it and how well it's going to do around American audiences as well as international, and your personal thoughts about how this movie could succeed now that it's been moved from December to February. Thank you.
That's a good question. Alita Battle Angel had its third trailer drop yesterday, which I finally got around to watching, and it looked really, really, really good. Looks really solid. Dropping the movie from December to February just makes sense, mostly because you got Aquaman, you got Mary Poppins, there's Into the Spider-Verse is coming out. It's a loaded, packed month. And so Fox, they realize that they're just going to get trounced, right? They might get one good weekend if it released in the beginning of the month. But other than that, it's just going to get destroyed. So moving it to February, which is, I think, around Valentine's Day, has actually proven to be pretty good for superhero movies. This year, Black Panther grossed $1.3 billion coming out in February. We had Deadpool 2016, almost over 800 million. 2015, Kingsman: The Secret Service came out on Valentine's Day weekend. Same with 50 Shades of Grey. Both movies went on to gross quite a fair amount of money. Kingsman, 400 million worldwide. 50 Shades of Grey, over $500 million in that first movie. So there is money to be made in February. There is money to be made then. And I think it's they also moved X-Men Dark Phoenix to June. So they moved that back. And so that's an open spot. They can take the spot and see what they're going to pull out from that one. I think that it's going to do good in terms of being a date movie, at least here in the States. I think we've seen some movies with female characters in action roles have done very well. Look at Harley Quinn, look at Lucy, Wonder Woman. I think it might tap into that market. It's also, don't bet against James Cameron. And even Robert Rodriguez he needs a win. And I think it's a good time. I think it lowers the expectations. It comes out after Glass, so it's not going to be dealing with that in January. And I think it's going to be a fun movie. As far as the American audiences, again, I think it's going to be more reliant on a date movie versus anything else. But then again, looking at Ghost in the Shell, people were really upset at Ghost in the Shell. So the movie didn't do very good, even though it was actually a pretty solid film in and of itself. And the people who were really mad at it for cultural appropriation never saw the movie to get why it wasn't cultural appropriation. But at the same time, international audiences, because this is based on a manga, and I believe, is it also an anime? It'll probably do well in overseas, which will then hopefully push it into getting a sequel if it does well enough. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. If it does well, and who knows at this point if it is. Again, don't bet against James Cameron. That's kind of the best way I look at that one. And him and Rodriguez teaming up is something that I've been anxious to see for a while. Rodriguez is still one of the most visually inventive storytellers that we have out there. And I want to see him. I want to see him get a win. I do. I really do. Hopefully this one will do well.
Hey, Matt. My name is Josh, and I think I like your show very much. I like how you talk about movies and stuff. And I was just wondering if I could ask you one question. I'd probably ask what would you like to see in the upcoming Jurassic World movie? I heard rumors saying that it's going to be the final movie. So I thought I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. So I just want to know how would you like to see things go out if this was to be the final Jurassic World movie? So I'd like to hear your thoughts about it. And Again, my name is Josh, and it's nice to speak with you. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Josh. I do appreciate you calling in. So Jurassic World, I just saw Fallen Kingdom for the first time a few weeks ago. I was really busy this summer. I have a baby. I couldn't get to the theaters often. I really liked Fallen Kingdom. It felt more Spielberg-y than the first Jurassic World did. Both Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom both grossed over $1 billion. So whatever the third movie is going to be, is going to gross over $1 billion when it comes out in 2020 or 2021. And I don't think it's going to be the last one. It might wrap up Owen and Claire's story, and then they might take it someplace else. But I don't think Universal is going to walk away from $1 billion franchise. Look at Fast and Furious. Right? Look at Fast and Furious on that one. But what I want to see in the final movie is I want to see the weaponized dinos. I want to see that angle play out. They talked about that in Jurassic World. They really kind of showcased it in Fallen Kingdom with some of the I think the Indoraptor. No, that thing was killed. But some of those other dinosaurs being sold off to other governments and other arms dealers and whatnot. Now that we're in the age of genetic splicing and everything else, you have Dr. Wong, who is still working with InGen, doing whatever the hell it is he's doing. And now that the Fallen Kingdom has happened and that there's dinosaurs in America and around the world, we're going to start seeing a lot more craziness from that. And I want to see how they're going to weaponize it, how they're going to militarize it, because that was the angle they've been going for the entire time, has been that. So that'll be interesting to me to see what goes on with that one. I think Colin Trevorrow will tell us a very fun Spielberg-esque finale, but I'm not going to lie, the way J.A. Boyena actually tackled the movie, I was really impressed. And if I'm kind of surprised he's not come back for the third one. Well, no, I'm not super surprised. I get it entirely. But yeah, Josh, thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. And then let's get here to our final one, a question about a relatively somewhat popular Marvel character.
Hey, Matt, Duct Tape here. Quick question. Do you think that there's a chance we will ever see an Unbeatable Squirrel Girl movie, since it can be done relatively low cost, since every time there's a fight, all you got to do is pan away for a second and she's mysteriously beating him? Anyway, catch you later.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that question. I think when it comes to Squirrel Girl, she's never going to get her own movie, hands down. There was a big boost to popularity with her a couple years ago. There was all the fan art of possibly having Anna Kendrick play her. Disney took that and put her into a TV show, and I caught part of it. It's lame. It's really stupid. But she teams up well with Miss Marvel, and we do know that Kamala Khan is going to be a central point for Kevin Feige with the next 10 years of the MCU. The next 10 years of the MCU is going to be all about female characters, right? Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Miss Marvel, etc. They want to capitalize on what DC has already proven to be a solid method with Wonder Woman and Harley Quinn. Having those characters have brought in a lot of money. So obviously Marvel is not going to shy away from that. The other thing to consider here essentially is that if they do put her in a movie as a co-star, which I do think is going to happen, if they cast the right person, and again, Anna Kendrick is the right person, and the popularity skyrockets. Everyone loves it. She's like the fan favorite. Look at Harley Quinn. Part of an ensemble, was the kind of breakout star. Now she's getting her own movie. Again, another ensemble, but she's the lead in that one. That's going to be what we see here. We'll see her get her own movie, or maybe get her own Disney limited edition series or something on Disney Play. That's kind of how I see that playing out. But otherwise, I just see her as being a co-star. I don't really see her ever getting her own movie, because who would really want to pay to go see that? I don't know. Anyway, guys, that wraps up today's episode of the podcast. I do appreciate you guys paying attention and hanging out. I know it's a bit of a long one. I apologize for that. I talk way too much, and I might have overloaded it with a bit too many stories today. But anyway, look, if you guys want to call in. We might even do a whole episode dedicated to just call-ins. If the call-ins are coming in and they're constant and they're good and they talk about current events, I'm down for that, actually. To be 100% honest with you, that would be awesome to go through just call-ins for the entire 30 minutes. But anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with more stories, provided that there's better news and hopefully some more callers from you guys. And again, thank you all very much. I love talking movies. You guys make my day a lot better. And so if you're watching on YouTube, toss a thumbs up. If you're on iTunes and you're new, or wherever you're getting podcasts, please subscribe, or whatever you can do to rate, and that'd be fantastic. Find me on social media, or you can find me on Discord to submit stories at discord.me/mundane Matt. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.